Okay, hopefully you can hear me. Yeah, okay at the back. Right, let's get started. GST 20. It's incredible, isn't it? We're trying to work out how many times we've been here at the London Stock Exchange. And it's actually the 15th time we've been here. We've done 5 in other countries as well, but it's the 15th time we've been here. Can I just ask for a show of hands? For how many people in this room is this the first time you've been to the London Stock Exchange? Okay, so quite a few for the first time. Okay, in which case I just need to explain why the Stock Exchange, just very briefly. It's a hugely important venue for us because it's symbolic of where we think sales should be, right in the heart of commerce and business. And there really couldn't be a better location, in our view, than the London Stock Exchange. So we've got a great agenda, as you've probably noticed already. And I normally sort of facilitate other speakers, but I'm afraid you've got me for the first half an hour. Some of you probably know and have been involved in the global research project that we've been doing on the topic of how do customers want to be sold to. So I'm going to start the event with sharing with you the insights that we've actually gained from that research process, which goes back to the doctorate that I did about 20 years ago. So it's been very interesting for me to revisit using very similar questions and approaches that particular topic to see what's changed and are there any new themes. And I'm going to share that with you. We're very, very excited, following me, to introduce you to the Aviso team, who are here with Lenovo. I assume we haven't been introduced. You might be part of the team, who are going to be talking about AI and technology and painting a vision for what the future could look like from a sales and ops and intelligence systems point of view. I'm not going to say too much about it because I know Trevor's going to do much more justice than I'll do to that. And then we have, now, how many of you in the room have done a master's project? Could you just put your hand up with you? Look at that. God, I remember 10 years ago, we had one hand go up. Yeah, it was something like that. It's incredible. Okay, next question. How many of you have referenced Professor Julian Birkinshaw in your projects? There we go. Yeah. So this is the first time we've actually invited Professor Julian Birkinshaw. He used to be at London Business School, Professor of Strategy at London Business School, but he's now the Dean, I believe it is, at Ivy Business School in Canada. So he's going to be dialing in, and he's just written a book called Resurgent, and he's going to be sharing a bit his latest thinking. But I've always found Julian very futuristic in the way that he started to look at what's happening in the world and what that means for leaders. And of course, with technology, we're going to be talking about that in some detail. We then have a break. We then have Jessica Guillard from SAP, master's alumni student, sharing with us her amazing master's project. I will not say too much about it at the moment. But talking very much about leadership as a general principle. And then after Jessica, if I got my memory and serving me right, we have Dr. Ryan here from IntraHive talking about relationship management and latest insights that he's got from that particular topic. And then we have an amazing panel discussion, and we have the president of Box with us, Samantha over here, who we've seen on one or two events in the past, talking about leadership and getting some insights from her. We also have Sam. I don't think I've seen Sam yet from Royal Mail Group. No, I hope she does. She arrived. She said she'd be arriving about 1 o'clock. And she's leading one of the biggest CRM implementations possibly in the country at the moment with Royal Mail Group. So she's going to share some of the insights she's got there. And we've also got one of the people that I interviewed as part of the global research project, Gareth. He shared an amazing story about how customers, some of the best practices he's seen in salespeople. He comes from a marketing function. And I've asked if Gareth can come and share his story with us. So we have a panel discussion. And then after that, I think we have a very short piece around charity. I don't know if Alison is with us yet. No, we're not sure. So could be that I hand over to Louise to help a little bit with the wrap up. But I assume that we want to spend a bit of time talking about some charity contributions that we're going to be making on behalf of all of you in the room. You don't have to make the contribution yourself, by the way, but we're going to get you involved in the process. So yeah, a great agenda. Then after that, we'll be having a networking drinks over at the Paternoster pub, which is not far from here, just 15 minutes away. So yeah, really, really looking forward to the next session. So let's get into my session. So essentially, we're looking at how's the state of the sales mindsets changed over the last 20 years. I'm going to explain a little bit in the process about the background to this question and actually sharing with you some key trends and observations from that. And then on the connection with the topic of AI, so the first one is more about the human connection. If you like, the second topic there is more about the technology and connection. And really want to share with you a new initiative we're doing with Aviso, which is around how do we take the mindsets and use agentic technology to help from a coaching perspective. So we're quite excited what this could potentially mean for organizations that actually believe that the sales mindsets is something that is relevant for their sellers. So I'm going to split my presentation into two parts. The first part is going to be sharing with you the quantitative survey data that we've got. Probably over the last 5 years, we've been collecting data around the sales mindsets themselves and how people perceive their sales mindsets against the 4 differentiating mindsets that we have defined. And then I'm going to share with you the qualitative research that we've conducted across the geography, interviewing customers about what they look for from salespeople. What's different about the research project this time round is the first time I did all the interviews myself. Yeah, there were about 86 interviews that I did. It took me a long time. This time, actually, it's better because we've actually got a collaborative team involved with people from Asia and from Europe. We've actually got one of our master's students currently doing the final master's project, and we've invited them to take part in the research process. So you can see down here the list of all the different researchers. Thanks to Development Systems and my team, wherever you're sitting, I'm not sure, over here, for Spain, and also, sadly, our Italian shareholders aren't with us, but they've also been part of the survey project. So I think you're going to find this really interesting to get a sense of have the mindsets changed? Are there any nuances that are very relevant? But for me, it's an absolutely massive step forward in some of the thinking that we have done in the past. Just for your benefit, to understand the context, those of you who have not been part of any of our sort of programs in the past, but essentially if we're looking at concentric circles, right at the center of the circle we have values and mindsets. And the hypothesis or the development that we actually had 20 years ago was that when buyers are buying from sellers is that, yes, processes and behaviors are important, but actually what is really important is the intent behind the behavior. And when you start to look at the word intent, you then start to look at people's values, their personal values and their personal mindsets. So essentially, we believe that if you have the right values and mindsets which are aligned with what customers are looking for, and then do everything on the back of that, whether it's your systems and processes or whether it's training that you might want to do at a behavioral level, you will then get the right kind of behaviors that should lead to sales success. So I'm going to share with you some of the evidence that we've had around adopting the mindsets as I go through this presentation. So this is starting with the quantitative data. So I'm going to show a few bar graphs up here for you to have a look at, and let's go with it. So this is self-assessment, essentially, mainly self-assessment. So what we've done is we've taken the 4 mindsets. We have a survey which is free on the website for anyone to take part in, and we have invited people to self-assess themselves against a number of different questions, and based on that, we come up with a score, a rating. So what you have on this slide is you've got you've got authenticity, client centricity, proactive creativity, and tactful audacity. These are the 4, we've always argued, these are the 4 differentiating values that are aligned to what customers are actually looking for. Now, what is interesting when we start, there are some subtle trends here. You may not be able to see it from the bar graph, but the subtle trends are that over the years, if we take proactive creativity and tactful audacity, you can see a slight increase, We can see that getting stronger. And we've always argued that actually these are the 2 values that customers most look for from salespeople, but they're the rarest to find in terms of interactions. They're the rarest. There's been a slight dip in 2025, but we haven't quite finished this. The one that really hasn't changed is authenticity. And I'm going to come back to this word a lot, actually, during the course of my presentation with you. So low authenticity scores drag down the overall average. And the way I think it's good to look at this is it's like a domino effect. If you've got people who are inauthentic in the way that they go about their business, it actually doesn't matter how good you might be in these other mindsets, it won't work. So authenticity is a kind of must-have. And we've not hugely focused on this because when you ask, most salespeople about how authentic are you, they always say, I'm very authentic and I act with a high degree of integrity. Anyway, so we've got this line so when you look at the averages, you can look at this. This is the winner's circle. 80% plus is what we would consider to be in the winner's circle. You could look at that and say, actually, we're not far off the winner's circle. But the key question is how many of those people are above 80% in all the mindsets? That's the key question. Because, like I said earlier, if you are very strong in some but not in others, actually it's not for us going to put you into the winner's circle. And here we find that only 10% of people who've completed the survey would actually put themselves in what we would call the winner's circle along this line. Now, someone on one of our programs actually said to us, Phil, is there a difference in gender? Are there differences between how females kind of respond to the survey and males? So that was an interesting question. We do not collect gender information when people complete the survey. However, we have relied on our trusted friends, AI, to come up with a probability given a name of a gender. And this is what it shows. So it could be that this is not 100% accurate, but it may not surprise you that of those in the winner's circle, that females do better than males. Does that come as a surprise? No? Okay, that's good. It kind of, somehow that figure's correct, doesn't it? And as Claire, who I don't know where Claire's sitting, somewhere, as Claire said, well, actually, when you start to look at the academic performance of people on our master's program, actually, women do better than men overall. Is that right? I'm looking at...
You're sounding
surprised. I'm not surprised. I've always felt that women are better at selling than men. Anyway, so we can have a discussion about this over a drink later on, shall we? And argue the case. But I just want you to hold this 10% figure. So you could say, well, why is authenticity kind of low? When it should be higher. Okay, so I'm going to come back to that question later on. Now this is really interesting, and I know that we've got Hyrule here from the Royal Mail Group, and I just say last week was it last week, the week before, last week before, we had fantastic news in that there were 2 awards that were won, one by Royal Mail Group and won by, not 2 awards, sorry, 2 in the final stages. So we had 2 companies, 2 of our clients got through to the finalist stage of the National Training Awards. SAP did, and Royal Mail Group, and Royal Mail Group actually got the final award. And I just want to share with you the Royal Mail kind of story. So what we did with the Royal Mail programme is started to ask this question: is it possible to change mindsets? Because a lot of people have said, "Can you change mindsets?" People have got them. Can they be changed? So what we did is we tracked mindsets at the beginning of their development program, and we tracked them at the end of the program. And you can see across all of the 4 mindsets that we've actually seen a change, a difference. Yeah, so we would argue that by raising awareness of what the mindsets are, plus all of the support and development tools, you can actually change how people, the mindsets that people have, and they go about their work. And it kind of makes sense because we're not born with mindsets, are we? We develop them as we grow and through our experience. So it's kind of logical that you can with the right the kind of support. But the interesting thing with the Royal Mail exercise, and I think the reason why you did so well in winning the award, was the connection between the programme and the results, but business performance. And there was a significant impact in business performance over that period of time. So they were able to track this by allocating across opportunities any of the tools that were associated with this programme. So fantastic. So we believe, and the evidence would suggest, that the right mindsets will produce results. And this correlates with the HP exercise that we did. I think Mike is here. Oh, I'm not sure where Mike. Yes, I can see your hand up at the back. You always sit at the back, Mike. You should be sitting at the front, I think. But anyway, with HP, we did during the doctorate a similar. We had control groups. We started to look at the mindsets, looked at the win-loss ratios, and not able to do this kind of control group study across them all, but it actually answered the question that mindsets can impact business performance. So, yeah, congratulations to Royal Mail Group. We should give them a round of applause for winning that. Thank you. Yeah. So, essentially what I've shared with you now is taking what we did 20 years ago and doing a kind of benchmark in terms of today. So we've taken the same structure, nothing's changed, and sort of looked at what the data has told us. What I'm now about to share you with is new data. Yeah, and the new data is coming from the qualitative interviews that have taken place across the world, where we've literally interviewed customers about how they want to be sold to. And we're particularly interested to know about the impact of technology, the impact of the pandemic. We've had so many seismic changes that have happened over the last 6 years or so, that it's appropriate to revisit. What has changed? Arguably we live in a slightly dystopian world. Not quite knowing exactly what is the truth, anymore. So there's lots of things that I think makes it rather poignant time to kind of revisit the research that we did. So essentially, these were the key questions that we're interested to explore. What are buyers looking for from today, from sellers, sales teams? And we're particularly interested in the center of that circle that I shared with you earlier, looking particularly at values and belief systems. So what values are you looking for? But we don't ask them a question like, what values are you looking for from salespeople? We actually ask them to tell us stories about examples of good and poor practice. And we use those stories to actually distill from that what we believe, what is the mindset that a sales team or a salesperson had that has made you say, this is an example of fantastic sales conversation. And could you do the same where you've had a disaster? Yeah, so we've looked at both and we've used that to extrapolate from that different themes. But we did have buyers talking about the subject openly, saying what they look for as well. So I'm going to share some of the conversations with you briefly. We obviously wanted to know, can you remember this statistic that we share? What percentage of salespeople sell in the way that customers want from the original research? Ridiculously low, wasn't it? Less than 10%. Yeah, so we wanted to know, has anything changed? Yeah, has anything changed over the years? You know, have sellers become better according to customers at the way customers are actually selling? And then, of course, are there any emergent sales values? Are there any values that we've defined 4? You know, could there be 5 or 6 or whatever? We wanted to know, are there any values, given the context of the environment in which we're selling, that suggest that we should give space, or, you know, should we get rid of some of the ones that we defined even 4 years ago? Are there any cultural nuances? You know, it's amazing with, of course, AI and thematic analysis, you can now do an awful lot more to look at the, you know, the conversational data that we have, and then start to look at it by geography or by function. And you'll get an idea about how widespread the functions and the sectors were in which we conducted the interviews. But we're also particularly interested in this last question, is what impact is AI having on the way buyers buy and sellers sell? And this in part was provoked or motivated by a McKinsey article that came out, published in the Journal of Sales Transformation, I don't know, maybe a year ago, where even complex B2B solutions, McKinsey was saying that you wouldn't need any interaction at all with salespeople. And it just didn't sit right. Yeah, it didn't sit right, that particular survey piece. So I wanted to ask, you know, we talked to many procurement people and asked, how important is it for you to talk to salespeople? And I know we've got a few procurement people, Michael, aside, we're not going to pick you out again, to give comment on that. But this is what we wanted to do. So down below, you can see the number of surveys that took place. You get a sense of geographic regions, America, Europe, North and South. We interviewed people in 10 different functions, CEOs, CMOs, chief technology officers, I mean, just across every single function you could probably imagine, non-for-profit as well as profit, and across 3 geographic regions, and there were 23 sectors that were involved. So I would say this has been a fairly substantive revisiting of the topic.
He has made salespeople lazy. Relying purely on
Sometimes.
bots and AI and sending auto-generated emails is damaging the reputation of their company.
I'd like to never, ever see a pitch or slides. Tell me your story without hiding behind a deck.
This is not the time to do innovation. Don't push it. It's only noise.
They're selling something that isn't there. The seller is selling a bubble.
The days of Teams, WebEx, and Zoom make it harder to build relationships than how we did it in 2019.
You come to trust the intellectual honesty and the competence. No smoke, no mirrors, no superlatives.
I am disturbed first by intellectual dishonesty. Don't sell me smoke or hot air.
So I just picked out a random selection of quotes here. I could have picked out so many, but I've just chosen these just to ask you a question at this stage in the audience. If you're looking at the words that you see up here, are there any words that stand out for you that have actually been interesting or curious? Yeah, sorry, who said that? Oh, thank you. Yeah, so why did you pick out that word?
I think it's related to the laziness part of it, right? Which is
Yeah.
people are making promises they can't deliver against.
Right. Yeah. By the way, can I just say that these 2 people were completely, this is Italy and this is Finland. Yeah, so they're 2 completely different people, very similar quotes, a very different nuance on it. Sorry, Ryan.
I think on top of that, about the smoke and mirrors, that's mentioned. It's
Yeah.
the noise, so
Yeah.
selling something that potentially isn't ready.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to come back to these quotes a bit later on if you're okay. But you can imagine with all of the conversation, we then ran thematic analysis against all of the interviews to come up, you know, which were the emerging values and belief systems based on what customers were saying that seemed to be for them relevant in the context of the world in which we're now kind of operating in. And what you see on this slide, on the right-hand side, you have got what came out of the thematic analysis. And we clustered them around the 4 mindsets. Now, you could argue that maybe this is being slightly biased, yeah? So essentially what we're doing here is looking at, where's the anchor and what are the sub-values that we heard most of all? And we grouped them in this way. So I'm not going to go through each one of these points because it would take too much time. And the interesting thing, when you do run the AI models actually on the thematic analysis, is you look at it and then you question, is what the AI model telling you what you think the picture is? Or is there something else that is not AI generated, it's implied by these words? And this is where, for me, it became interesting, because yes, we've used AI to help do the thematic analysis, but you've got to then look at the words and start to question, does this make sense? And broadly, I would say it makes sense. Broadly, I would say it makes sense. Intuitively, from the work we do with different clients, it does make sense. But there is a however, and I think the however is related to the questions we asked around technology in particular. And so I'm going to suggest that we change this word authenticity. If you think about authenticity and being authentic, it's being original, yeah? It's the source of the truth, yeah? But we've added to this word authenticity, intellectual authenticity. So you can have 2 people who are totally authentic, but what's going to differentiate one person from another? It's the ability to reason, it's the ability to reflect, it's the ability to critically reflect. Those of you on the master's program will be very much in tune with this. And when you go back to the previous slide and the words of intellectual dishonesty and intellectual honesty, yeah, it seems that that's what we were hearing, not from every interview that we did, but it seemed to me that in this world where you've got to turn up with, of course, use AI where you can, that people are really questioning, what is the source of the truth? Can I believe in what I've been told? And I need to see evidence of some sort of layer above it, which suggests that it's not just an AI-generated proposal. It's not just an AI-generated mail that's gone out. It's something that reflects something a bit more. And I would argue that this is what being human is all about in this world of technology, is this ability to look at all the tools that we've got and then add a layer of critical reflection on the top. And I'm going to call this intellectual authenticity. So it's raising the bar just a little bit more than we had before. I think, and what does that mean? It means that we need, that people need to know the provenance of the idea, yeah? The provenance of where that that content, that proposal is coming from. They need to see visible reasoning and taking ownership of judgment and synthesizing data. And you could argue that I have just demonstrated a little bit of taking ownership of judgment because that word did not come out in the thematic analysis. But I'm 100% convinced in myself it's the right word. I just know it's right. I just know that this is important. Then, of course, you come to the question is it possible to train people to be intellectual? I'm sure we can, but there are all sorts of techniques you can to actually start to challenge thinking and reasoning. And that's essentially what we do through the master's programs. That's what we teach people to do. Okay, some good news. In 2005, the percent of respondents said less than 10% of sellers sold in a way that they want. And the data suggests that that has absolutely improved today, according to the research data. Less than 80% of the respondents said less than 30% of sellers sold in the way that they want. And I just made a note there, the mode is 20%. So that's the most frequently cited number of the data that we've actually looked at. But that's still only 1 in 5, suggesting that there's still big room for improvement in the way that, that sellers aren't quite meeting the expectations of customers. But it is good news because it's an improvement in terms of the perception that buyers have of how how sellers sell. So, moving on very quickly, I think customer expectations are rising. The way you turn up is so important. The standards are increasing. They expect you to have done the research. I think AI is a two-edged sword. Yeah, and what I mean by that is that I think AI is both a huge, and we're going to see that with the Aviso conversations a bit later, a huge benefit in terms of productivity. But it's also going to increase complacency, because I think a lot of salespeople are going to rely too much on it to do the work that they should be doing in their own right. And therefore, this intellectual honesty, I think this is the reason why the authenticity figures have been perhaps slightly lower, and we got so much feedback on this from buyers when we spoke to them. Authenticity is a sticking point, and it's shifting to intellectual authenticity. Proactive creativity, tactful audacity, it's fantastic to see how those have developed, and we know that they're critical for selling. You need balanced excellence, meaning it's not just being good at one of the mindsets, but across all four that are important. I'm not going to go into this now. I think there's a QR code. I'm not sure if it's that one there. There's a 40-page kind of white paper that we've produced. And there are cultural and functional nuances which are important. So please download, if you're interested in the topic, please download the report. On the question of authenticity, and it's an area that we need to do more research into, is sales systems need to support the sales mindsets, meaning that sometimes sellers do not sell in an authentic way because of the pressure that they're under to sell by their directors or by the company. So sometimes they go against what they feel they should be doing because of the pressure to hit sales targets. Is it possible to change mindsets? Yes, it is possible. Think diversity, back to what we're talking about, female, male, and maybe others. And yes, I think I've made this point already. So those are the key takeaways, I think, from the research. So I'm going to segue now a little bit into the Aviso introduction, because we're beginning to look at how do we then take the sales mindsets and leverage AI in a way that can help scale kind of insight into how sellers sell and customers buy. Oh, got to leave. I love this. I really missed the impact of this, didn't I? But you got IA, intellectual authenticity, and AI. Yeah, just remember that. That's one thing that you leave from the event, is be left with that. So this is the question I'm kind of moving on to now. Oh, let me just come back. So what we've been doing with Aviso, I'm very excited to announce the Aviso relationship, is, and I have to thank Offer for helping to facilitate this, and I have to thank Trevor for giving it, the support to this, is it possible to use AI agentic technology to help look at those mindsets in interactions between, in this case, you'll see a short video, sort of customer success, sales support teams, and clients. And it's been very interesting, because essentially what we've done is we've given the IP, the doctorate, the book, and lots of our IP collateral to the Aviso brain. And we've started training the brain to be able to look at conversation and give it a filter through the sales mindset. And I've personally been doing this. It's not someone we've given anyone else to do. So I've personally put my name against the accuracy of the data. And Libby Drake, who is our instructional designer that some of you would know. And so we went into this not knowing, would it work? And being pretty bowled over, actually, by what we've started to see, to have seen. We have Shrikant here in the front row. He's heading up the product development team there. He's been working with us and his team on it. So I'm going to share with you, is this AI generated? Okay, so this is an AI generated. Okay, just checking. Okay. Sure. Okay, so here we go.
Sales teams invest millions in training. Yet Harvard Business Review shows that 60% of deals end in no decision. The problem? Reps get generic advice, not diagnostic feedback on where conversations actually break down. Meet the sales mindset coach. An AI agent built by Aviso and Consalia, the research firm behind buyer-centric sales methodology. Here's what it does. Select any call. The sales mindset coach analyzes it against 4 buyer-preferred seller mindsets: authenticity, client centricity, proactive creativity, and tactful audacity. You get individual scores for each mindset, showing exactly where you're strong and where you need development. Then turn-by-turn conversation breakdown. It identifies the precise moment the buyer disengaged and explains why. This turn? You pitch before validating the problem. Now you know exactly what cost you the deal. Feedback on each analysis trains the agent to understand your unique selling style, making future coaching more personalized. Want to go deeper? Click Coach Me and an AI coaching avatar appears. It guides your rep through reflective questioning to surface blind spots. When they ask for specific methodology guidance, it provides it.
Start by asking, what specific challenges are you facing? Then mirror back what you heard. This shows your...
The result? Reps improve with every conversation. High stakes call tomorrow? Practice mode lets reps simulate scenarios and receive behavioral feedback before the real conversation. They walk in prepared, not improvising on revenue-critical deals. Sales Mindset Coach. Scalable coaching that changes behavior.
So thank you, the Aviso team, for help to produce that. But it can give you an idea of what we're starting to do now in terms of testing.
I just want to say that the system is not AI generated, it's real.
Yeah, the system is real. Yeah, it's been amazing for us to sort of understand how it works. So, yeah. So that is me. Thank you very much. I hope you found that interesting. Thank you very much. Thank you.